All right, it's time for my narcissistic 45-minute rant. Once again, I don't really plan ahead too much what I'm going to say. I just have a couple things that are stuck in my jaw, and for whatever reason, I feel like blabbing. If you want to get a more organized view of kind of what myself and Michigan Bob, a friend of mine and a co host of a little indie internet radio station that we do, that's still evolving. It is, you can check us out at blogtalkradio.com/infoside, and I'll end the self-promotion there and just talk about a couple things. It's interesting to me that, I bashed on mainstream media quite a bit because I think that they've lost their objectivity. A big problem is in order to gain access to public officials to get information, and they apparently are betraying their impartiality. I mean, it's really easy to see that CNN wants guns to be taken, and other stations tend to definitely take sides on issues rather than just critically reporting information. And to me, that's a problem because I even a long time ago saw some journalist on CNN talking about how there was just so much information out there that journalists' new jobs were agents of change, and they were to kind of pick information to help them weave this change. I mean, this is probably 7, 8 years ago. And real quick, I apologize if there's background noise. I'm a little close to the old washing machine since I'm at home doing this tonight. But that just, even back then, that struck me as just absolutely not right. And I just thank God for alternative media. And again, alternative media is wild. It's unregulated, so you're gonna get good info, you're gonna get bad info, but you're gonna get info, and you're gonna get info that the compromised mainstream news tends to overlook or self-censor. And I think it's important for people to make good decisions to have good information, and alternative media provides an alternative source of information that I think is necessary for people to have good information. A lot of people that I would call the statists are worried that people will pick up the wrong information. They're worried about the fact that the alternative media isn't vetted correctly, and they, in their elitist nature, think that there needs to be people that will vet stuff properly. So you, the little peons who can't think, won't get the little wrong ideas. Again, this is an elitist attitude that just further, in my mind, solidifies that a better way to go in society is to teach people how to think critically rather than what to think. Teach them how to reach outcomes that are logical and as much as humanly possible. And there's a big star there, or caveat. Be unbiased about how you gather information. Try to take it from different sources and try to weigh the facts logically and come to the best conclusion. As human beings, it's actually pretty difficult to do that, and it takes a little bit of training. And even with training, I'm going to try to remember some quote I had heard today. It went something along the lines of, I can't remember, dang it. It was something along the lines of, if you force somebody into a logical conclusion that they aren't reaching willfully, you haven't changed their mind. Meaning that you can beat somebody into an intellectual corner, and all the logic and all the arguments on your side, but if they didn't reach that conclusion willingly, they're just going to go back to their old conclusion. You can't. It's really hard to logic somebody into a position if their heart isn't in it. And what's that verse in the Bible? The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So all of us have, in order to reach a conclusion, both our heart and our intellect kind of have to be in line. And I think a lot of our intellectuals today are hamstrung by the fact that they don't understand that there is a heart component into logic or wisdom. Even Dungeons and Dragons players, giving my nerddom away a little bit here, know that, When you make a character, there's two different attributes, intelligence and wisdom. They're two different things. And I think the same thing goes with common sense. We have a lot of very bright people, but they don't, their heart's kind of jacked, and so they're blinded to um, a lot of things, and they miss solutions, and they won't listen to certain solutions because they're, even though logic might dictate that the solutions are correct, their hearts won't let them go there. Anyway, circling back to alternative media, it's interesting because alternative media in some sense is becoming to the point where it's not so alternative anymore. You know, Alex Jones has something like, through all his various distribution channels, allegedly something like 4 million viewers a day that stumble across, you know, his messages that he puts out. I think he's pretty much a 7-day-a-week operation, which probably isn't really good for his health. Probably should slow that down a little bit. But one of the things that's disturbing to me is because he's been around so long, and because it's kind of becoming, he's becoming a well-known name. Now I see all these alternative media people trying to diss him and distance themselves from him because I guess he's not trending enough anymore. He's become enough mainstream, so now you've got to become even more obscure. You've got to go back to William Cooper or, you know, some other people, some fringe guys. And Alex Jones is just too mainstream, and now there's all these accusations that he's a shrill, he's the control opposition, and, you know, he's just out to sell DVDs. And I kind of want to address all that because, for one, before I start, let me just say that I'm not an Alex Jones fanboy in the sense that I listen to his shows every day, that I believe everything that he says. I don't. I like listening to stuff he says. I like some of the guests he has on there. It causes me to think, causes me to question. And in my mind, thinking and questioning is always usually good. I'm not afraid of that. And it irks me that a lot of people who, without Alex Jones, probably wouldn't be nearly as far along as they are in questioning the official narrative of events, suddenly get full of knowledge, and then they suddenly turn around and start kicking at Alex Jones. Or I'll just say Alex. I'm going to defend Alex to a certain point. One, he's just a man. He's not perfect. He's swinging at things that are spiritual in a lot of sense. I think he understands that. He has some form of faith in God. I don't know how deep it is. I don't know if he's actually a born-again Christian. I hope he is, and I think everyone who knows the name Alex Jones, who hears him talk, should be praying for him, because he is going up against dark forces, and without Jesus inside of him, it's going to open himself up to all sorts of spiritual and physical attacks. And so I think it's good to pray for him and hope that, you know, if he is saved, and maybe he is, again, that's between him and God. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I just, sometimes the way he talks about things, it's like there's a knowledge of God, but is there really a deep relationship there? There is, and I think it would be, or there could be. I'm not saying there is. It just doesn't seem as deep as, I don't know, someone concerned on the sideline like myself thinks maybe it should be. So I think we should pray for him, and we think that hopefully that faith that he has, wherever it's at, will continue to grow and grow deeper, and he'll know Jesus, and if he does know him already, that faith would just strengthen. And again, he's going up against dark forces, so I pray for protection for him. And do I believe everything that he says? Absolutely not. But I think he's on the right track on a lot of things, and just because I disagree with him on some things doesn't necessarily mean that I just toss him to the side. And also the whole thing about him being the controlled opposition. On that point, I think it's kind of interesting because I do believe that there are factions of power in this world who've been in business for a long time, and they've got a playbook, and definitely one of their playbooks is to getting a message here. One of their playbooks is to control the opposition, to either try to co-opt existing opposition or create new opposition, sometimes even before the thing that's being opposed is introduced, so they can channel things. So is Alex Jones the controlled opposition to the, quote, New World Order? To me, that's an irrelevant point, because I don't really trust anybody that's out there talking about this stuff to the extent of me seeing them on the internet gives me a full dossier of who they are, where they're coming from, what their agenda is. You can kind of glean that a little bit over time, but I think ultimately, you got to take anybody who's on the net. Take me talking right now with a total grain of salt. You don't really know who I am or what my agenda is. Sometimes I don't either. But, it's okay to question, whether he's the controlled opposition. But even then, if you know how to think, you can take what he's saying and analyze it. And, sometimes controlled oppositions give a lot of sugar as well as poison. And if you can kind of discern the difference between the two, Alex Jones might be covering, and his media group might be covering all sorts of things that are very relevant to people that are trying to resist the kind of growing fascist trend that our society's heading towards. And if in the future he, goes out of character and starts doing things that's pro that, or if he's mixing garbage in with whatever, if you're trying to develop critical thought and being able to not take things and be so gullible, and when one person says something, trying to back that up with 2 or 3 different sources to kind of confirm what you're saying, I think that's a very reasonable approach. And I think Alex, even if you don't fully trust him, I have a tendency to maybe be a little bit gullible and think that he's just a man out there swinging. But I don't rule out the possibility. Now, as far as him just being this shrill trying to sell DVDs, I think everything that he's produced, he's put out on the internet for free. And yeah, he does have ads for all the stupid water filtration, which maybe isn't stupid. Maybe, there might be something to all this fluoride stuff. My opinion's still out on it, although I don't drink tap water as much. But I'm pretty sure that if fluoridation is a problem, that all the fruits and vegetables are being watered with fluoridated stuff, so it's concentrated in them. Say, you might be skipping drinking fluoride in tap water if you drink bottled water, but then you're getting BPA and all this other stuff from the plastics in your bottled water. So which is really better? I just generally think that I'm totally tangenting on that. There might be something to it. The closer you get from process to nature, the closer you are to nature, just the better off health-wise you are. So without getting too deep into that, that's kind of my general philosophy now. Am I good at that? No, I'm still lazy and I eat all sorts of crap, but whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to throw a little pro Alex Jones or Alex rant out there. Again, a lot of the people that are, question official narratives at one point or another have probably in their travels encountered radio shows and information done by Alex Jones that's kind of helped them become aware of different ways of thinking about things, different narratives that challenge the official story, and they've run with it. Maybe they've run beyond what Alex Jones and his media group is doing. But I think to just kind of wantonly just diss him and say, oh, whatever. I mean, it's a free world. You do whatever you want. I'm not a fascist telling you what to do. But when I see it, it just kind of irks me, because I think that Jones has done more for alternative media at this point in time than almost anybody. I'd say he's almost the face guy for alternative media. And people can argue with me, blah, 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 blah. Well, who's being viewed by 4 million people a day? Huh? Is it, some. Yeah, just. So, you can go ahead and diss him if you want, but I think disagreeing with stuff that he says, I absolutely have no critique about that. If you see something and that doesn't jive with your research, that's fine. But to just out and out just kind of kick him to the side and start making fun of him, and I think he's an ally. Whether even if he might end up being controlled opposition to some extent, the information he's giving out gives people the ability to kind of free their minds, so to speak. The ultimate agenda of what's being done might be something more nefarious, but in the mid-process, people can hear stuff that kind of wake them up and cause them to think, and I think that's all good. So I just wanted to throw out a little support there, because I'm noticing a trend on the people that are generally fairly knowledgeable, that go way deep in esoteric stuff, that their heads are puffed up with a little bit of knowledge. They think they know it all. I don't think on this stuff you can really know it all. And this is a critique just for those people on them dissing out Alex Jones. It isn't a critique of them on their other stuff, because some of the people that are doing this that I've seen, I enjoy their shows. I enjoy listening to them. I think they've got great stuff to say. Some of their research into the esoteric stuff I think is really fascinating and resonates with me and gives me vectors to start doing more research on my own. So that's all good. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. Another topic, women in combat. What do I think about that? And I got to tread lightly here because my wife might listen to this and kill me. My whole thing on women in combat is this. There should be one standard, and that standard should be based on combat efficiency and lethality. So if you're going to have 50,000 infantry guys, or 10 divisions, 20,000, 200,000 infantry people, you want the people who meet the highest standard that you can get, that are the most combat efficient and combat lethal. And also a third part I would throw in there, also the most loyal to the Constitution and are there to primarily defend the people of the United States. So those are the three criteria. Now, is gender necessarily part of that? I won't even go there. I'll just say that if there's 200,000 slots, I don't think military service is a right. It's a privilege. Another thing. So, I hear when a lot of people talk about opening up certain branches of the military to certain things, I always talk about more jobs, more opportunity. That's not why the military is there. The military is not there as a jobs organization. The military is there to deter the enemy, and if that doesn't work, the military is there to kill people and break things. That's a very gross, hard edge of it. I mean, the military does other things, going around feeding people and helping rebuild stuff. But that's secondary to those two primary, and that third, defend the Constitution and the people of the United States at all cost. So what I fear is when they talk about opening up additional modes of service to women, that they're lowering the standard, and that's because I've done research on this. I've read a couple books. Women in the Military is one that documented how early efforts to bring women into more combat positions resulted in standards being altered and changed, and the problems associated with that. So there's a lot of women out there who can probably about it. There are women out there who could just beat the snot out of me. There are women out there who are way more lethal than I'll ever be. But as an aggregate here, most of the time those positions, when you're concerned with physical ability to conduct combat, are going to be most likely benefit from having a male fill that role. But we don't even need to do that. We just need to have standards that represent the highest possible standard you can get for those 200,000 or whatever, X positions there are at various different modes of services that you can get. And there might even be some modes of service that women actually outperform men. That wouldn't surprise me at all, but probably not the more physical, lifting 90-pound or 110-pound rucksacks around in extended periods of combat. I remember in the 80s, or not the 80s, but around the year when Clinton was in office, towards the end of his office, there was something about how the military was short like $25 million for ammunition supplies. And then on another week, I saw that the military was spending $25 million to put a bunch of gender-neutral latrines in ships. So another thing there is the issue of, we do have different biologies, and there's the cost effectiveness of having a male, which generally you put a little hole and the dude can piss and take a dump or whatever. And with women, some women can live with that, other of them don't. And if there's additional costs because too many in the military aren't willing to live like that, same with men that aren't willing to live like that too, that should be looked at. We don't want to be short of funds because we're making everything gender friendly. So again, just keep the standards, and then gender's not an issue. If men can't hack it, they're not in the mode of service. If women can hack it, they get into those positions. So it's kind of a non-issue for me. I just worry that it's a politically motivated thing that will lower the standards and lower the lethality and effectiveness of the U.S. Armed Forces in some positions. So I probably ticked a bunch of people off. What else? I think that's it for me. I'm going to make this a short one. So you can follow me on Twitter at Infocide spelled INFOCYDE. Once again, that's INFOCYDE. Take care.